Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter, or of course, you can subscribe to the channel. Let's talk boxing. Let's talk about the big one: Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua 2. Boy, oh boy, am I excited about this one. First and foremost, we're going to talk about some of the key areas that Alexander Usyk found extreme success in the first fight that basically won him the fight. We'll also talk about the adjustments that Anthony Joshua needs to make. My personal belief is different to what I've heard anybody else talk about. That's not to say others are wrong. I'm just talking about the way I see it. So we'll go into that and how I believe Anthony Joshua has to fight this fight and where he can find some success, but also where Alexander Usyk can adjust or continue to capitalize on where he had successes. And then towards the end of the video, we'll come up with a prediction as to how I believe the fight will go. So let's get started, and let's start off with one of the key things that gave Alexander Usyk the win in the first fight. The majority of people have spoken about the fact that he couldn't miss with the backhand. This is true, but the reason was the hypnotic lead hand of Alexander Usyk. He mystifies you, he bamboozles you, he varies the lead hand, and AJ tried to do a whole bunch of things. You could see him touching it there to engage it, trying to pat it away. You had him trying to counter it. There were a variety of things that AJ tried, but ultimately one of the problems that he had is that he was very reactive to it. And the reason he's reactive to it is because although a lot of it is pitter-patter type stuff, a lot of it is misdirection, a lot of it is used just to put in your line of sight, it's used to affect your own lead hand, to roll your lead hand, to create openings and things like that. He can vary it up with some really powerful stiff shots. A lot of them are short. You could see there he threw a short double jab and then a hook over the lead hand of AJ. He can use it to change the angle on you. There you just see him engage the lead hand, the backhand, sorry, to tap it down to create space for the wide left hook that was going to come. And so what happens in this scenario is that AJ starts to overreact to it, and we'll see it later on. I'm going to show you that later on in the video. But what a lot of people have said is he needs to fight like a big man. He needs to forget trying to box. Just get at him, right? Just let your hands go. But what a lot of people don't seem to talk about is how you go about that. What are you going to do? Just start throwing punches? Do you just run after him? Well, one of the things you should never do is bum rush Alexander Usyk. In the preview to the first fight, I gave the analogy of how he uses feints and foot pressure to act like a cat versus a snake. Sugar Ray Top Cat, as we called him back then. He comes into range using that foot pressure, using that hand pressure, invading your space, getting you to react, just like the snake thinks it can get to the cat. It can't quite get to the cat. The cat's patting it, it's thinking about its angles, and when the timing's right and the cat has realize that the snake is overcommitting, he's going to make his move. He drags the snake into position, and then finally he goes in for the kill. And that's the sort of thing that Alexander Usyk does. He will either make you miss with a lot of shots which will wear you down in terms of the energy level that you expend, or he'll make you fall short and catch you with a big shot like that he did to Tony Bellew. Here you see him against Anthony Joshua. AJ threw a big right hand there, and he's always just outside of range. And then look, how do you chase the guy when he's rotating off at an angle, circular motions, he's not running a straight line? When you've got the slower feet, you're the bigger, heavier man. To reset your feet quickly to get after him, you're expending a lot of energy. If you don't get him out of there early, you're going to gas quickly. And what this can lead to, like I said, is an unsustainable high energy output and an overreacting to the lead hand. So what I want you to look at here is this example of, at one point, you're going to see that Usyk doesn't really throw anything on the lead hand. But what I want you to see is the way AJ really overreacts to it. He bends down to his own right. There, you see that? That is very energy expending when you're doing this consistently over the course of a fight. And here's a second example. These are very big men, very muscular men. Look at that. He's worried, is that going to be a big right hook, or is the backhand coming down the pipe afterwards? So he's trying to get out of the way of it. But he's dipping all the way down, and he's making these big exaggerated movements. The other problem that he's having when people say just get after him is that when he tried to up the tempo, he was bouncing in and out. And one of the problems with this is that it gives you a pattern. When you're on the bounce, you aren't in a position to punch because you're up in the air. Now, a bounce can provide some advantages. In theory, you've got a bit of a head start in the sense that, imagine it's a race and you are having a little jog and I'm at a standstill and somebody says, okay, on your marks, get set, go. By the time I generate that speed to pick up to where you've already reached by jogging, you're going to get to top speed more quickly. So by bouncing up and down, you're able to enter the pocket more quickly. The problem with a consistent bounce, especially when you're in and out like AJ in this consistent pattern, is that number one, when you're up in the air, like I said, you're not in a position to punch. And secondly, you're providing a timing pattern. AJ goes out there, as he comes in, Usyk's able to punch him. Out there, as he comes in, Usyk's able to punch him. It's like a pendulum or a swinging bag. It swings back towards you, you're able to punch it. So this is a problem with trying to have that high energy output and jumping in and out. You're getting caught with a shot, being forced back. You try to run back in. It's predictable and it's high energy output and it's going to give you more problems. So how does he go about fighting a guy like Alexander Usyk, who has better energy reserves and is more of like a Duracell bunny than him? Well, for me, contrary to what popular belief is, he doesn't need to run at him. First and foremost, of course, you have to have multiple plans. You have to be able to know what to do on the back foot and the front foot, because Alexander Usyk will adapt. And one of the things he's susceptible to is being hit when he's being lured in. When you're on the back foot and you're forcing him to engage first, because he too likes to bounce. And he does it a lot better than Anthony Joshua. He's a lot less predictable. He'll shuffle his feet in small steps, then larger steps, side to side. He's got upper body movement there. It's night and day between the way he and AJ does it. So he's brilliant at it. And because he's so good at it, he'll put you in a position where you feel as though you need to react, and that can wear you down too. He forces you into that high energy output that we're talking about. But nonetheless, there does come a point where he has to enter, particularly against men who are taller and with longer reaches. As he seeks to enter, that's when he's susceptible to being timed, for the same reason we spoke about before. There's a little step. He's got that narrow stance, Usyk, which enables the mobility. As he steps in, that stance widens, and that's when it enables you to have an opportunity to counter. Now, in terms of countering, because he's very accurate, he will land often when he does step in. And so what Tony Bellew was doing was giving him the shoulder, so there wasn't much to aim at, and then twisting his body in, rotating his body in to bring that right hand into play, particularly to the body, as you can see there, but also to the head. And there were moments where he actually hurt Alexander Usyk. Here he is on the ropes, baiting him in. Usyk seems to have success, and you saw him land that big right hook to the head. You see it here as well with Maris Briedis. He wants Usyk to enter first. He's taken a couple of little steps backwards. He'll take a small steps forward, then move backwards to lure Usyk in. You want to walk him onto something. Now, he can't do this for the entire fight, but it's the thought process of a Deontay Wilder. Rather than trying to win every aspect of the fight, you need to think like Deontay Wilder, where he'll give up rounds and he'll say, listen, I'm not going to be able to live with this man in terms of his energy, in terms of winning the fight on points. What I want to do is hurt him. Then if I do land something big, that's when I have to jump into life. There were too many moments in the first fight, Anthony Joshua, where he did land something big, where he didn't react. Like that clip you just saw there. He clearly affected Usyk. He was far too accepting of Usyk being willing to tie him up and able to tie him up. I want to take you back to that, in fact. Let's look at this. So he lands the right hook. Usyk's a bit uncomfortable, but he just enables him to tie up quite easily. He's got to avoid doing that sort of thing, AJ. Then look at this slow motion jab. Little short steps backwards, right hand, again, slips backwards, right hand down the pipe. He's letting Usyk enter first, and he's taking his time. He needs to learn from Tony Bellew, who had a lot of success with this, and Maris Briedis. Yes, they both lost the fight, but AJ's a bigger puncher than them. AJ might be able to land something big by luring Alexander Usyk in and saying, okay, you're going to land something, I'm going to land something in return. I back my power against you. That last clip I just showed you there is to show you that Usyk also likes to try and get the space around your left shoulder. There, he likes to step around. So what did Bellew do? He moved back up onto the ropes at times to take away that space. You see that? So he couldn't enter the pocket there. So AJ also has to be aware of his surroundings. Don't be afraid to utilize the ropes if he's coming around you, to be able to cut off that angle if you're looking to lure him in. But like I said, you have to be adaptable against Alexander Usyk, and you have to be able to also fight on the front foot. So on the front foot, what Anthony Joshua needs to do is have short, controlled steps. Keep your base fairly narrow if you can, not too wide. Don't overreach, and take these little steps forward to force Usyk into action without giving him much to counter. But when you're doing this, your focus is still on that factor of luring him in. And when you hurt him, like there, Usyk showing the upper body movement, AJ's very composed, throw away left hook, then he landed the right hand down the pipe. Don't overreach. Again, You can see him here. He's taking his time. Bang, right hand. There, he's got to jump on Alexander Usyk. This is an error that he made in the first fight. Usyk's got a great poker face, and you could see there, AJ wasn't overreacting to the lead hand of Usyk. You see that? He's not doing the error that we spoke about earlier, whereby the lead hand magic, so to speak, from Usyk has him mystified. He's almost willing at this point to get hit. He's accepting of it. But by this point, he'd expended so much energy that it really caught him down the stretch. This was in the middle rounds, round 7. So there were areas of success for Anthony Joshua, and that area came when he was more controlled. And you could see there that lovely little uppercut to the body. Okay, again, these short little steps. Look how narrow it is. Right hand down the pipe. Very, very controlled. When he does land something significant, he has to be willing to jump on him. So I'm not saying don't go for it. You do go for it. But you go for it once you've lured him in to land something big. And when you are chasing him, short steps. Let Usyk do the majority of the movement. You always have to be in a position to throw a punch. You're not going to stop Alexander Usyk landing on you. You've got to get that out of your mind. You're going to have to be willing to accept some shots that are going to come your way. But in your mind, you've got to think of it as I'm the bigger puncher. You want to trade off blow for blow? Cool. I'll let you have that. If he is in a bit of trouble and he wants to initiate a clinch, you can aim a hook towards the back of Usyk's ear. And what this can do is help you initiate a clinch, or it can help you create openings to the body from that clinch, or it can just break his construct. Because of the method of his defense where he puts up that high guard, if you catch him on that back of the ear, you can then pull him in. And from that position, you can either lean on the back of his neck and head, or you can pin him and look for an opening whereby you are shooting an uppercut through the high guard into the solar plexus or into the bottom of the midriff, or even potentially, if you can manipulate his body, around the left elbow. Now, Usyk was very good at protecting against that in the first fight, but nonetheless, it gives you the area of control in that scenario. Here as well, you could just see the little hook there, which allowed the uppercut to the body. Briedis did this very well as well. He's enabled him just by throwing that little left hook around the back of the ear. Even if it comes a shorter left hook like this one, because of the stance of Usyk and the guard and the way his hand comes together in a high guard, you can create openings through the center to the body, as you can see there. And even here, where Briedis throws him on the floor, it's dirty because there was no opening there. But you have to understand, these are very big, muscular men. And when you've been moving around the ring and you've got jelly legs because of the amount of effort you're putting in, having to lift yourself up off of the canvas in the latter rounds requires a big effort. You also have this example here whereby after Alexander Usyk had hurt Anthony Joshua with a fully extended arm where AJ couldn't produce maximum amount of power, he was able to move Usyk laterally and stunt him from working. Maybe that's why Usyk tried to bulk up to try and counteract the physical strength of Anthony Joshua, but as far as we're aware, AJ has the physical strength to be able to use lead arm head control or to initiate a clinch via a left hook around the back of the ear, not just to be destructive, but in order to stunt Alexander Usyk if he gets into trouble. Another area AJ might want to look at is that when Alexander Usyk wants to exit quickly, if he's been pinned in a corner or something, he'll have a high guard, he'll dip his body to his right, and he's hyperextending essentially the abs when he does that, as you can see there. If you're able to time him as he's doing that to land a shot, either a shovel hook to the left side of his body or a shovel hook to the right side of his body, because the abs are hyperextended rather than curled and tensed, you're providing less protection for your internal organs. So if he's able to land something like that with good timing, as you see Beterbiev did here in the amateurs, he might be able to hurt Alexander Usyk, or at least deter him from wanting to exit consistently. Like I said, this is the amateurs, but we're talking about the biomechanics of the way he's exiting. Having said all of that, Alexander Usyk is a magician, but this magician is not all just fairy lights, magic tricks and rabbits out of a hat. He's brutal, and he brings a brutal withering cross to the body. And this is one of the problems that AJ is going to have, even if he approaches the fight in the way that I'm saying, whereby he's not overreacting to the lead hand. Because if he is going to take these shorter steps with a more narrow stance, he is going to leave a lot of the body open. If he's not trying to hide that body and change the angles consistently and move along with Alexander Usyk, he will provide that opening. And Usyk is, like I said, a master at lining up that backhand, not just to the head, but to the body. And it is brutal. It is withering. So There is no perfect approach here when you're fighting a guy of that level, and Alexander Usyk is capable of adjusting. That lead hand is going to be incessant. It's going to be in his face. He's going to be giving him something to think about, and when he doesn't overreact to it, he will be punished for it. So this, in my opinion, is going to be a brutal affair whereby both guys are going to have to take some punishment, and AJ is going to have to accept that and go to a place in his mind where he's going to say to himself, I will outlast you. There's no way I can win this fight at a canter. It's going to be a hard fight. So how do I believe this fight will turn out? Well, I think if Anthony Joshua just does go for it and try and rush him like a lot of people feel he should do, he will have some success. I think it will be very uncomfortable for Alexander Usyk in the first couple of rounds. Just like Derek Chisora made it uncomfortable for Alexander Usyk. I think the problem that Anthony Joshua has, though, is that when he does approach that fight in that manner, he lets go of so much energy early on in a fight where he can hurt an opponent. You saw it happen against Kubrat Pulev, where he nearly got him out of there in round 3. You saw it happen against Vladimir Klitschko, where he dropped him and hurt him in round 5. And then subsequently in the rounds that followed, he began to tire and his output dropped dramatically. And those guys weren't able to capitalize. Vladimir Klitschko says that his brother told him to take his foot off the gas. He also looked very tired to me, to be honest with you. So whether he was unable to or whether it was a conscious choice, it enabled Anthony Joshua to get a second wind. Kubrat Pulev decided that he wanted to just box a bit more, and he had a bit more success, but he wanted to get into a rhythm rather than jump on AJ and force him to fight at a tempo he didn't want to fight at when he was dog tired. Alexander Usyk won't allow that. If Alexander Usyk isn't significantly hurt after Anthony Joshua has really let go of a lot of fuel, Usyk's going to start to really punish him. And if that happens, I believe he will probably get Anthony Joshua out of there in the middle rounds. You've heard Eddie Hearn say, I believe this is going to be a 6-round fight. That could be what's going to happen here. AJ will go for it early on. He will either hurt Usyk and get him out of there early, or he'll get broken down. If he approaches it in the method that I've said, it doesn't necessarily change the pattern of the fact that Usyk's got a terrific engine and he's able to go through gears. He will target the body. He will continue to get Anthony Joshua to be reacting to that lead hand, even if AJ's consciously trying not to overreact. The sheer nervous energy of it all and the punishment that will come as a result of that will take its toll. So even if he approaches it in that way, it's not that I don't believe Anthony Joshua will tire. He will. But I believe he's more likely to line Usyk up with something big, hurt him, and then jump on him and be able to get the job done and get him out of there. The negative to the approach that I'm suggesting is that you are going to be giving up rounds. And in the first fight, regardless of how you had it, I personally felt that Usyk won the fight 8-4. A lot of people felt it was 9-3. One of the judges had it 7-5. So Anthony Joshua might think to himself, as long as I can stay close here, I'm the manly man. If it's a close fight, they'll give it to me. Whereas the suggestion that I'm making is you're really giving up some rounds in order to set up something big. You see what I'm saying? So you have to hurt him, you have to drop him, in which case, yeah, you could still win the fight on points, but you're relying on the idea that you affect Alexander Usyk massively. I still think that's his best possible chance of winning. Having said that, although it might not necessarily be as early as what they're saying, a 6-round fight, whereby if he really goes for it early on, if he is more controlled in this manner, I think that maybe this can work out for the first 8-9 rounds, just like in the first fight, but he has to be more aggressive in bursts rather than trying to win every second of the fight like he did in the first fight. Do you see what I'm saying? So in that regard, I think he would have to hurt Alexander Usyk within the first 9 rounds pretty badly and potentially win the fight that way. Otherwise, again, I think Alexander Usyk comes on strong in the championship rounds. Either way, I believe Anthony Joshua is going to approach this like a warrior, whereby he's not going to leave anything in the ring. And as a result of that, I think he's going to start to have to take certain risks at certain points. And I think that Alexander Usyk will wear him down and win the fight by knockout towards the end of the fight. Let me know what you think, guys. I do believe AJ can win this. I just think in terms of probability, it's more likely to be Alexander Usyk. Let me know what you think, ladies and gents. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please don't forget to hit the like button with a stiff jab, land a big right cross on that subscribe button, and a big uppercut on that notifications button. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care. God bless.